Good morning and welcome to another week of Crime Watch Live.
Today, the tragic case of 87-year-old Eileen Blaine, who died after being viciously attacked at her home.
This burglar might think he's killed my mum, but he's killed us inside. I just hope that another family like ours doesn't go through this for the sake of 30 quid and a wedding ring.
Can you help detectives solve this awful crime?
Jamming the switchboard both here and at the incident room on that case of Welling Garden.
Just to remind you, this was the abduction and radio drop campaign and the handgun debate. Hello and welcome to Crime Watch. 12 people rang in giving the same those fantastic results.
Hello and welcome to the programme where we are coming to you from our studios in the Welsh capital.
We have got a very busy show lined up for you today, including trying to find the rightful owners of this catalogue of stolen goods.
We have a jaw-dropping film about how police caught a gang causing terror as they embarked on a stealing spree, nicking almost £4 million worth of cars.
We had this group of 6 or 7 individuals, some of them as young as 15, who were responsible for committing a large amount of car crime across Manchester. Pretty much £4 million worth of cars in a 10-month period.
And how a team of brave officers put their lives on the line when they came face to face with a man carrying explosives.
Put the gun down!
It had wires hanging out of the top of the bag. At that point, I realised that it was an IED.
As always, police and our team are close by, ready to answer your calls. You can find our contact details using the QR code below, or call us on 08000 468 999. Text us on 63399. Start with the word crime, leave a space, then write your message. Or email us at cwl@bbc.co.uk.
First this morning, it's a heartbreaking appeal on one of society's most vulnerable. A savage attack claimed the life of 87-year-old Eileen Blaine. This, of course, is a very moving film.
He just wouldn't stop hitting me, that was the main thing. Just asked him to stop, but he wouldn't. He just said he wanted gold all the time. But it was just a nightmare.
Family has always been at the heart of 87-year-old Eileen Blaine's life.
She enjoyed family coming round, she enjoyed seeing our children born, my children, my brother's children.
Mum would be the one that we turn to all the time.
For 63 years, she was happily married to husband Andrew until his death in 2003.
My dad was everything to my mum. It was very difficult when my father first passed away, but my mum being as she was, she became resilient, she got tough.
With her husband gone, Eileen treasured one item in particular which held special memories of him.
The wedding ring meant a great deal to my mum. She only has to look at it and it reminds her of my father and their life that they had together.
On Friday the 3rd of February 2017, Eileen went shopping at her local supermarket.
She was very fit and agile for her age. On a weekly basis, she'd get a little shopping trolley and go up to the shop at the top of the road.
CCTV from the supermarket shows her picking up her groceries.
You don't realise how independent she was. She used to get on buses and take the dog a walk. And at 87, when you think about it, you wouldn't think she'd be doing that, would you?
As she's coming home with the shopping, she thought she saw the window cleaner, so she gave him a little wave, came home.
After she unpacked her shopping, there was a knock at the back door.
Because she'd only just seen the window cleaner, she automatically thought he was coming to get paid.
But it wasn't him.
And that's when he punched her straight in the face. She didn't have time to do anything, and then he hit her again.
It was relentless. He would not stop. He's on the floor, and he then continued to kick her.
Eileen begged the man to stop, but he kept on, demanding gold and money.
Mum raised her hands like that to say, I've got no gold, I've got no money. And unfortunately, he saw a wedding ring on her finger.
Ripping the wedding ring off her hand, he dragged Eileen into the living room, where he threw her Jack Russell Sammy into the wall.
At this point, he said to me, Mum, you're not getting out of here alive.
Eileen was trapped. But when her attacker went upstairs to search for more valuables, she seized her opportunity.
The first thing she could think of was pick the little dog up and run out the front door. And she ran straight to a neighbour's house.
They called the police, but Eileen's attacker fled before they arrived.
Well, she had bruises all over her face and her eyes and her nose.
It was only when she went to hospital and she had x-rays that they then found out she sustained 3 broken ribs and a broken vertebrae in the base of her spine where he'd been kicking her. After 5 weeks in hospital, she was then really turning the corner.
Despite her injuries, Eileen seemed to be making a good recovery.
She was looking forward to getting home, seeing a little dog.
And on the 31st of March 2017, doctors finally allowed her to go home.
All she dreamt about and really thought about was, I'll be going home tomorrow, I'll be going home tomorrow. So when she got told she could go out, she was absolutely happy.
But just a single day after her return home, Eileen passed away.
Well, I've lost my mum. I've lost a friend. I've lost everything. This burglar might think he's killed my mum, but he's killed us inside.
Started chucking me about and I couldn't get up and ask him to stop. He wouldn't. Yeah, it was quite nasty. He said we weren't going to get out, you see. He was going to make sure we didn't. But it was just a nightmare.
We've lost somebody to speak to, somebody to confide in. You can't quantify that.
I just hope that someone does catch him in the end, so that another family like ours doesn't go through this for the sake of 30 quid and a wedding ring. What a price to pay.
Well, I'm joined now by DI Paul Davis from Greater Manchester Police. Good to have you with us this morning, Paul. This is such a senseless, brutal attack. What more can you tell us about the investigation so far?
It is. We're treating it as a murder investigation. Eileen was 87 years of age, very active, very independent, and she was just going about her weekly shopping when she was then attacked in her own home.
It's shocking. It really, really is. We've actually got a map. Just explain what we're seeing here.
This is a local area of Stretford covering the Barton Road is the main road through. You can see Eileen's address, and it's a very short distance to the local shop where she does shopping and then returns. Yeah,
just carrying out her usual routine.
Yeah.
What on earth could have motivated somebody to carry out an attack like this?
I believe the motive is robbery. The male who entered used force and violence by assaulting Eileen in the address, then demanded cash and gold.
And we can just see some of the images, Paul, of the injuries that poor Eileen sustained. Just terrible. We talked about items that were stolen. One thing that was mentioned, which was of huge sentimental value, was Eileen's wedding ring. Is that something that's managed to be recovered?
We've not recovered it.
and we desperately want to recover it for the family. That's what they want. It was given to Eileen by her late husband, Andrew, on their wedding day. So it's incredibly important that we get that back.
Absolutely, we
It's
heard
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead with the description.
The description is it's a gold wedding band with a crosshatch design on it.
Yeah, and we heard from Eileen's sons, David and John, in the film. It would mean so much to them. Let's talk about the suspect. What description can you give us of this person?
He's a white male. He's 5'8", slim build, and he was wearing a black coat with a hood over the top of his face.
So, Paul, for people that are watching today, how can they help with this appeal? What are you looking for?
I'm looking for the community of Stretford to come forward, really. 8 years have passed since this incident. People may have not felt brave enough to come forward and give information at the time, and I ask them to now to think and then just pick up the phone and call us.
Absolutely. And over time, allegiances change. People might have fallen out and now be thinking, actually, it's time to do the right thing.
It is, yeah. I believe that this person would have confided in somebody close to them. 8 years have passed. I want them to search their conscience, do the right thing for the family, and come forward so we can get justice for Eileen and that family.
So important. Just finally to note as well, Greater Manchester Police are offering a £50,000 reward, aren't they, for any information leading to the arrest and conviction of the individual responsible.
Yes, there is.
Paul, thanks so much for coming in and telling us more. Now, all the ways to get in touch with us are on the screen. Just stand by the clock, or you can contact Greater Manchester Police, which is on the number below.
Later on, we're going to be chatting to Andy and Jim from Healthier Heroes, a charity helping ex-veterans get back on their feet. Now, though, I'm with DS Charlie Punning from Avon and Somerset Police, who has this vast collection of stolen items you can see here that he wants to find the owners for. Charlie, it really is an incredible display, but how did you come into police possession of all these items?
Well, good morning, Rav. My team and I were investigating a large series of burglaries across the Somerset area that happened between August and November 2024, although we believe that some of the burglaries happened back beyond December 2023.
We see on the map here, actually, every pink spot you can see, you believe, is a burglary that has been committed by the same group of individuals. There's a massive amount there, isn't there? Huge.
Yeah, you can see how widespread it is and how many people that it's actually affected.
Yeah, so who do you think was responsible for these crimes?
So we...
you had a group of individuals.
Yep, so the group, they were a prolific group of individuals that sometimes committed between 3 or 4 burglaries in a single night. They targeted large rural properties and sometimes businesses and farmhouses as well.
Yeah.
They would generally scope out the property beforehand, and then on the night of the offending they would enter the grounds and then try the doors or windows, and sometimes gain access through sash windows. Once inside, they then stole anything they get their hands on that thought they had any sort of monetary value, which is why we've got such a vast array of property that we've recovered.
Yeah, we're going to come on to this shortly. I just want to know how you actually caught this group, because you've got 2, they're on remand at the moment, you've got 2 that have already pleaded guilty and 1 awaiting trial in a couple of months' time. How did you finally get them?
Well, we had an idea who was committing the burglaries, and then we had a couple of breaks in the case. We had some warrants sworn out and then executed the warrants where we arrested the 3 people that were charged. And then during those warrants, we were able to seize around 450 items of stolen property. Of those 450, we've managed to repatriate around 100. And
there's a pretty novel way you did this as well, where you're thinking outside the box. You actually hired out a hall, didn't you, and got people to come and have a look at it. Let's have a look at this here. What's happened here?
So we hired a hall for a couple of days and we put all of the items on display so the victims of burglary could come in and have a look to see if they could find any of their property.
And as you say, you got a number of those items back. However, there are still a number outstanding, some of which we've got here. So let's just talk us through what we've got here. We're going to start with this large clock that we've got in the studio. Charlie, what do we know about this here?
So, yeah, we have the antique grandfather clock there. We have a silver candelabra.
Just next to me, very distinctive. And with all these items, Charlie, it's not just the value, it's the sentimental value that can be so important to get it back. So we've got the candelabra, as you say. In the centre here on the table, I'm interested with this. What have we got here?
So we've got a very old Bible that dates back to 1816. So, you know, this was stolen along with a number of other valuable books as well.
It's going to be very important, and someone's clearly going to want to have this back, I'm sure. If anyone's looking at these and they just say, I want to have another look, where can I get into contact? What should they do?
So I'd urge any victim of burglary for the last couple of years to log on to our website, Avon and Somerset website, and check out our online gallery where they can scroll through all of the images. And then if they've got a receipt or they can prove provenance, then we'd be delighted to get those items back to them.
Oh, we'd be delighted as well, Charlie. Thank you. Do take a closer look at this selection of stolen items. You can also head to our website, or as you've just heard, the Seized Property Gallery of Avon and Somerset Police's website for the full list.
Next, how a dangerous gang stole millions of pounds worth of cars and were caught thanks to their online bragging.
I've never seen anyone be so brazen about committing crime. They just had no regard for what they were doing. They just saw the cars as pound signs.
On the 23rd of May 2022, in Droylsden, Greater Manchester, police receive a report from a local resident in the early hours of the morning. The detective who investigated the case cannot be identified.
It was a Sunday evening, family time, there was nothing out of the ordinary. Parked outside, they had a Golf GTI. They went to bed as they normally would. They were woken up by a neighbour at around 10 to 2 in the morning. The neighbour had seen the Golf GTI being stolen. They were shaken up at the time. The 4-year-old was really worried, and he had to sleep in their room for a good 6 months after the incident because he was scared that the men were going to come back in.
About an hour later at 3 a.m. in the Chadderton area of Oldham, a local resident was quietly praying at home when they were disturbed by a strange noise.
So he went to investigate, and he was confronted by 2 masked men within his house. Both these men had knives. He saw 2 further males at the rear door. They were shouting, "Give us the R keys, give us the R keys." He had a VW Golf R parked on his drive outside. Having struggled with them, they found his car keys and they all ran out of the house and drove away in his car. After the offence, he was shaken. He was more angry that it had happened, that these lads had broken into his house, targeted him, stole his car, all whilst his family were present. He's since moved house because of this incident.
4 weeks later, on the 16th of June 2022, in Upmill, Oldham, a 3rd incident occurred.
The victim, he'd spent £55,000 on a VW Golf R, treated himself to this really nice car that he'd wanted for a long time. He pulled up at his home address, parked on the drive, and he was removing some items from his boot. 2 men got out of a grey BMW 1 Series, ran to the victim and forcibly shoved him to the floor. They punched him, they threatened to stab him, he hit his head on the flower bed and constantly asked for the keys to his car. One of the males picks up the key, gets into the car, whilst the second male holds the victim down on the ground. He starts the engine, reverses off the victim's drive, colliding with the wall as he does so, leaving the victim on his driveway. One of the neighbours came out with a phone and tried to record the driver of the vehicle as he was driving away. He was really shaken. He had cuts and bruises to his head, but the trauma he went through on his own driveway, I think, affected him more mentally than physically. He didn't feel safe in his own home anymore, and because of this, he's had to move.
As the gang got more brazen, their level of violence increased. On the 30th of June, 2 men were dragged out of bed at knife point to hand over the key to their cars.
CCTV showed that the boy's father had woken up because of the commotion and seen his sons outside the address, and he couldn't do anything about it because they kept the door shut. They ran around the front of the house, stole the car, crashed it into another one as they were driving off. To have entered someone's house and dragged them out of bed at knife point was probably the most terrifying incident as part of this investigation I saw.
Suspecting the crimes were the work of the same gang, the team worked closely with the Tactical Vehicle Intercept Unit, who had created a detailed intelligence picture of who could be responsible.
We came together and we had this group of 6 or 7 individuals who were responsible for committing a large amount of car crime across Manchester, a huge amount of car crime, some of them as young as 15. As we were looking at these incidents and the crimes that had been reported already, how could we link these people to it? They were still out every night committing crime. On one occasion, they stole 4 cars from one address. A lot of the time, they were targeting high-powered vehicles. Other times, they might target what they call dingers or a blender, so a car to go and commit further criminality in. So we started to take them off one by one and try and prioritise who we thought was maybe more dangerous or who was more prolific than the others.
In October 2022, a 17-year-old who can't be named due to his age was arrested.
He had family members that were involved in car crime. He had a device that was used in the keyless thefts of Land Rover or Jaguar vehicles. There was dozens of Range Rovers that they stole in that way. He had a lot of contacts for a 17-year-old.
His phone was analysed and showed him bragging about the cars he'd stolen to a 27-year-old man named Kyle Camp. Camp was already in prison awaiting sentence for 2 burglaries he'd pleaded guilty to. Detectives seized Camp's phone and discovered a raft of incriminating evidence linking him to the gang.
We'd now found someone that was much older, that was obviously orchestrating things. We realised quite quickly that he was one of the males responsible for the robbery in Upper Mill on the 16th of June 22. So I think he was hoping by pleading guilty to the 2 burglaries and we wouldn't then discover all the crimes that he was involved in over that summer.
Through further digital forensic work and cell site analysis, police were able to gather more damning evidence.
He sent a video and it showed that Golf GTI on that video and it showed the full reg of the car that was stolen at the time. It was a bingo moment. We also linked him to the robbery in Chadderton. The phone, as he's using it, pings to masts in that area at the time of the offence.
He also had multiple pictures and messages linking him directly to other crimes.
One incident, we know that Camp threatened a female with a screwdriver, stole a car. A neighbour had tried to block them in. He rammed them out of the way in the stolen car and drove away, and we found messages on his phone boasting about the incident later that day. In another incident, we found that someone had taken a photo of him on a stolen motorbike, posing in the clothes that he'd used to steal a bike in. I've never seen anyone be so brazen.
Police were able to link Camp to 15 burglaries and robberies over a 7-week period during the summer of 2022.
We also showed, due to his age, he was a senior member of that organised crime group responsible for stealing pretty much £4 million worth of cars in a 10-month period.
On the 24th of January 2025, Camp pleaded guilty at Manchester Crown Court to burglary, theft, robbery and handling stolen goods. He was sentenced to 14 years and 4 months.
It was a real rewarding job for us all. Although there was a huge amount of evidence on this case, it was made a lot easier by them because they were so vain. They wanted to show off about how great of a criminal they were. It was just idiotic. He got exactly what he deserved.
Just terrifying for the victims, though, targeted by that gang.
Absolutely. But great police work there.
Yes,
good result at the end.
Absolutely. Good to get the gang off the streets. We're joined on the sofa now by ex-Army veterans Andy Powell and Jim Barton. They're from Healthier Heroes, a charity providing support for military vets who are experiencing difficult times. Really good to have you both in the studio with us. Thanks so much for coming in. Andy, just to start with you, tell us a bit more about Healthier Heroes and how it all came about.
Sure. So Healthier was formed based on the background of sort of like the difficulties that I faced going through my mental health struggles, addiction, attempted suicides, and basically reaching out for the help and support and not getting it. So it kind of took me 5 years to recover, going through various sort of processes, and Healthy Heroes was formed in 2018 to make sure that no one went through that same process.
Oh, it's a horrible, horrible thing for anyone to have to go through. Clearly a very, very tough time, Andy. But what sort of support does the organisation offer veterans?
So we offer quite a lot of support, to be fair, and the main thing that we offer is Bancroft House, so it's the accommodation side of it, kind of where Jim lives. So we're taking veterans off the streets who are homeless, veterans leaving prison who have got nowhere to live, providing that safe space and recovery programmes within. So mental health, providing counselling support, drug and alcohol addiction, education, employment and training, and a plethora of sort of health and wellbeing activities as well, which my wife Rio runs, who's the co-founder and owner. You know, and so that the package is very vast. There's a lot going on.
You cover so much, which is absolutely fantastic to hear. So how many veterans are you currently working with?
So at the moment we have 21 in Bancroft House. We've got 8 in our move on property, so 29 at any one time, and we're looking to expand. But since December 2020, when Bancroft House was open, 206 veterans have been through our doors, and we're currently supporting 312 veterans and family members across the North West and Lancashire, so it's pretty busy.
Yeah,
really
very busy.
Yeah, great to hear. And Jim, you are someone who has had first-hand experience of just how this organisation has helped you and is continuing to help you now. Just tell us a bit about your story.
Yeah, so I mean, sort of lots of my journey, there's sort of similarities to Andy's as well. So I served 15 years with the Royal Anglian Regiment, so an infantry unit. For 9 years of that, I was a combat medic. And unfortunately, back in 2010, I was quite badly injured in Afghanistan. And then, as a knock-on from that, I was eventually medically discharged in 2018. So obviously my career was taken away from me. I mean, I was fortunate in the fact that as sort of I had my background in medicine, so I actually went on to East Midlands Ambulance Service and joined as a paramedic. Which, you know, absolutely loved the job. But unfortunately, because I hadn't been given the support, especially for my historic issues with alcohol and my mental health, in 2019, I had a really severe mental health crisis. And so I turned to alcohol again as that coping mechanism. And unfortunately, a series of catastrophic events then led to me actually going to prison. So I was in prison from December 2019 to December 21, so I did 2 years. But even when I was released, I felt like a rabbit in the headlights. You know, I felt kind of lost, like I didn't really have a purpose or anything, you know. Very much like a lot of us feel when we leave the military, especially when you're medically discharged, you know. Yeah. I tried my hand as a fibre optics engineer, but then quickly realised that...
Get a sense that wasn't for you.
That was not for me whatsoever. No, so I kind of knocked that one on the head. But then, obviously, well, unfortunately, Russia obviously invaded Ukraine in February 22. And to be honest, it was something that I felt I had to go and do when Zelensky did that call to arms. So
you felt you got drawn to actually go and...
Yes, yeah. So I basically, I booked a one-way ticket, packed my kit, and then I went and joined the International Legion as a combat medic. So I did 7 months out there on various front lines around the country. Unfortunately, I was injured twice in that 7 months, and then on my second time, I kind of, to be fair, I was physically and mentally burnt out, you know, and I was ready to come back to the UK and kind of recuperate more than anything. And then it was basically pretty much bang on a year after that was when I was introduced to Andy and to Healthier Heroes.
And they've made a real difference to your life, haven't they?
Yeah, absolute game changer. I mean, you know, I would openly admit, I'll be the first to admit actually, and you know, I'd say 95% of the guys that have been through Bancroft or are still currently there, you know, will openly admit that it's saved their life in some form or another, you know.
It's really good to see how you've turned it around, Jim. It really is, and you seem to be in such a good place now, which is really good to see. And Andy, this is open to men, women, all services.
Yeah, all services, tri-service and families as well. So it's really important that families know that we're there to support them. So it's not just the lads or the ladies that are served; it's a combination of both. So please give us a shout if you need any help. We're here to do that.
Thank you so much for coming in. Honestly, it's been great to hear more. Really appreciate it. You're doing great work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, the quick thinking of officers in our next film certainly saved lives when they came up against a man brandishing explosives and a handgun.
I am PC Emma Davies and I work at Hampshire Constabulary. I have a love for the job I don't think I can explain in words.
I'm PC Scott Thompson. The job gives me a fulfilment in regards to helping others.
I don't ever see myself doing anything other than what I do now. Generally, being a police officer, you accept that there's always going to be a level of danger. You are walking into the unknown and you don't know what you're going to be faced with.
You've got to be ready for anything.
On the 28th of August 2023, we'd been tasked to locate suspects. We arrived at an address in Gosport where we were trying to arrest Damian Mazakiewicz because it was reported that he had breached his restraining order. There were no warnings for him. We knew very little about him.
It was just a normal August bank holiday. Sun was shining, it was really warm, not much happening out on the street.
We knew that there was likely to be someone inside that property. I went round to ensure that Mazakiewicz didn't escape out the back.
The officer that had gone in first saw a male coming down the stairs and he had a revolver to his temple.
Put the gun down, put the gun down, put the gun down, do it now. Do it now, put the gun down. Put the gun down. Put the gun down, do it now.
That's when the adrenaline started to kick in. We don't know if this is an imitation firearm, we don't know if it's a real one. Somebody could die, somebody could be seriously injured.
Put the gun down!
He was doing something with his left hand and I don't know what he was doing.
Put the gun down!
And then all of a sudden you hear this bang and all just this cloud of smoke.
I heard 3 loud bangs. I thought that my colleagues had been shot. I ran as fast as I could.
My other colleague tasered the suspect.
The hallway was filled with thick black smoke. I thought, oh God, he set something on fire.
Get your arm behind your back!
There was smoke billowing out from underneath him. It made you cough. It was unpleasant to be around. We didn't know what the smoke was at the time. We weren't sure if it was toxic. They were dragging him out. One of my colleagues was cutting a strap off from around his right shoulder.
Your arm's behind your back now!
When I was cutting that off, I could just feel all this heat coming from it.
Is it still attached to the taser?
And it had wires hanging out of the top of the bag. At that point, I realised that it was an IED. We were all in a lot of danger.
The heat and the smoke coming from this device, I knew that that had to get away very quickly. I had to kick it out of the way.
Get away, get away!
I could see him reaching down for a second bag.
Stop, what are you doing? What are you doing? Get your bag!
So I've cut that one off as well, and made sure that was out the way so he couldn't reach. He's then been stood up and escorted to the police van.
I went to the boot of our car and I got the fire extinguisher and then doused the first device. The explosive ordnance disposal unit arrived.
To start taking lead on making sure that these devices were made safe.
When I got home that day, I think that's when it really hit me. It was almost like a bit of a snap back to reality. The following day, we were told that the second device contained ball bearings, shattered glass and knife tips. I found that really difficult to process, I think. We were just so lucky the device didn't work as Mazakirevich had intended to use it.
This could have been so much worse, that we could either be in hospital or not coming home at all.
I think at the time of the incident, I was worried that I wasn't going to be coming home to my kids.
I didn't have any feelings at that point apart from get the job done. This is what we're here for. We need to save life and limb. Damian Mazakirevich was sentenced to 4 years and 3 months. Having somebody with that knowledge that can produce an IED off the streets, it keeps the public safe and it keeps anybody else that deals with incidents like that safe. I wasn't expecting to be nominated for the National Police Bravery Awards. It was just great.
We went to Downing Street and that was surreal.
And to have this sort of award and recognition is once in a lifetime. Coming off that stage, I could feel the smile on my face and I could feel my cheeks hurting because it was just brilliant.
It was emotional. It was an amazing thing to have achieved, really. But I'm more proud of the way that we pulled together as a team and we dealt with that situation.
We all knew what to do, when to do it, how to do it. And I think that was the proudest moment for me.
We kept each other safe and we kept the public safe by understanding each other and just getting the job done. I think that really that's the best achievement.
Yeah, congratulations to PC Emma and PC Scott there. Thoroughly well-deserved with your award. And dealing with volatile, unpredictable situations like the ones those officers were facing is obviously extremely brave, but standing up and improving our communities is something we can all do, even in smaller ways. I'm joined now by PCSO Lloyd Bridgman from South Wales Police and Janet Hayward, the head teacher of Cadoxton Primary School in Barry. Really good to see you both this morning. Janet, I guess the story starts with you. Tell us what happened at the school.
So, Michelle, we came back to school after the Christmas holidays. We were excited to be back, but our reception children, 4 and 5 years old, went outside into their garden area where they go and learn every day. And they were really upset to find that their outside allotment shed had been broken into and damaged.
Oh, no. And this isn't the first time it had happened, is it?
So it happened for the first time then, but it happened a few times afterwards.
Right.
So the children became so upset that they actually made some posters.
Bless them.
That they,
wow.
just like this.
I mean, you can see some of them here. Stop hurting our shed. With a big sad face. Clearly it's something that really affected them, Janet.
So they were really upset. They cleaned up the space, but the people kept on coming back.
And Lloyd, this is where you come in.
Yeah, absolutely. So when the incidents were reported to the police, I made a visit to the school where I met Jan, provided a bit of reassurance to Jan, her staff and some of the children. And yeah, we decided then just to get access to the school by getting hold of a set of keys from Jan. We noticed that the incidents were happening in between, say, 7:30 and like 9 o'clock in the evening.
Right.
So, myself and 3 of my colleagues, we decided to do a quick patrol, and I think it was about 8 o'clock at night. And we located 2 subjects in the garden. One was detained, one made off, but the good news is we know who they both are now, and an investigation is still ongoing.
What a fantastic result. So what has this meant for the garden now, and how's it looking?
So the garden is back to its former self, but that's thanks to some parent volunteers, but also some fantastic community volunteers, including Lloyd.
Oh, well, you're a governor of the school as well now, Lloyd, aren't you?
Apparently so. Apparently so.
But talking about this connection with communities, it's so important, isn't it? And actually, Lloyd, local communities can get in touch with their PCOs really, really easily. That's something that you want to get out there.
Yeah, so first of all, obviously, we're out and about, high-vis. Members of the public can approach us and speak to us whenever they like. But I think it's important to mention the people that don't feel they have a voice in the community. South Wales Police have now created a messaging service called South Wales Listens. So it gives members of the public an opportunity to engage with us through that messaging service. It's free of charge, where we actually send out messages to them of what's happening in their community, or they can speak to us about anything they're having issues with. It's important to mention that it's not to report crimes. That needs to be 999 or 101. But yeah, it's just a tool for them to engage with us. We also send messages out for crime reduction, and we can also send out messages for certain events that we're doing in your local community. So they can just pop along and have a chat with us.
Really useful tool. Yeah. And finally, Janet, what's the reaction been like from the students having this beautiful garden now?
The children just love their garden. They love being outside. And I think it's just the thing of them understanding they're part of a community.
That's the thing, isn't
it? Takes a village to raise a child, and Lloyd is part of that
Very
village.
Well said. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming in, and I'm glad it's a good news story.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
We just got time for a rundown of today's Wanted Faces. And we're starting with Jamal Adam Anderson. Greater Manchester Police want to question him about conspiracy to supply cocaine. He'll be 40 in May, has connections to Salford, Bury, Hume in Greater Manchester, but police haven't ruled out that he may have left the UK. Next, can you help Merseyside Police find Anthony Mark Quigley? In 2017, he was sentenced to 14 years in prison for a drugs conspiracy. And since he's released, he's breached the conditions of his licence and has been recalled to prison. He's 46, has links across Merseyside and also to Wales and Scotland, although police think he may have travelled abroad as well. Or, have you seen Jesse Amaru Hanna? He too has been recalled to prison after breaching the strict conditions of his licence. He's 26 foot tall, slim with short hair. Thames Valley Police say he has connections to Dunmow in Essex and Milton Keynes in Buckinghamshire. And last for today anyway, we've got Mohammed Kebab Khan, who also uses the name Hebab. West Midlands Police need to speak to him in relation to drugs offences. He's 30 and has links to East Birmingham, in particular Spark Hill, Spark Brook and Moseley, and also to St Albans in Hertfordshire, Scotland, as well as Dubai. So, you recognise any of these men, do get in touch using the details on screen below. That's all we've got time for today. If you would like support with some of the subjects raised in the programme, help is available at BBC Action Line. Remember, you can also watch us on iPlayer for up to 30 days after broadcast.
Tomorrow, how a crook who found a loophole in a cryptocurrency platform managed to steal £25 million.
This is a multi-million pound fraud investigation. 4 years, thousands of pieces of evidence, and recovering money from all over the world. It was the most complex investigation of my career.
See you tomorrow for that and more, 10:45. Bye for now.
See you then.
Died.
She was convinced she wasn't the robber's only victim.
He has done this many times, I believe, and is pretty professional. He would need to know access points and people's movements. So I would guess he's been doing surveillance on the property and surrounding areas for a while. The armed robber was all masked up and balaclavaed up. But what I did take note of is when he did say things to me, that there wasn't a foreign accent there.
Open it! Open the garage!
The thief stole almost £1.5 million worth of valuables. Detectives pieced together CCTV of the thief's escape and were able to map the journey he then took on the train.
He got the 5:38 p.m. from Hildenbrook train station. He gets off the train at Tunbridge train station, where he then gets on the next train. He gets off at Marden train station, and he has then cycled, leaving Marden train station at 6:02 p.m.
They were then able to build up a profile of the armed robber.
He is a white male, exceptionally large build. A distinctive feature is his muscular arms. He had trainers on with very distinctive red soles. It was a warm, hot, sunny day, and the clothing that the offender was wearing, I think, would have stood out to his fellow passengers as being unusual. What's striking about this case is that he appears to have a loss of control. There was no need for him to be so violent towards her. This contrasts with how meticulous and careful his planning is. I won't forget the first time I watched the CCTV. Her screams will remain with me, and I'm determined to try and catch this man.
You can't just forget about it. You think about it every day. You're wary of people. You suspect everybody now. I did not see the reason why he had to slit my head open. Maybe that's a sadistic streak he's got in him. But yeah, a complete coward.
And I'm now joined by Detective Inspector Maxine Harris from the Kent and Essex Serious Crime Directorate. Maxine, this must have been an absolutely terrifying ordeal for the victim there. Can you just remind us of those key points of when and where this occurred?
Yeah, this was an aggravated burglary that happened in Sevenoaks in Kent, happened near to Wilderness Golf Course between 3:55 p.m. and 4:35 p.m. on Friday, the 21st of June 2024.
And you got a pretty good overview that you managed to piece together of the suspect's movements both before and after the event.
That's right. We know that he starts his day in Staplehurst. He's on a pedal cycle. He's cycling on Marden Road, and he's taken the train from Staplehurst train station to Sevenoaks train station and then cycled to the scene.
And then after the event, he's used the same sort of method to travel back, hasn't he? And we can see here his movements again on a pedal cycle and using the rail network.
He has cycled along Park Lane, Sevenoaks. He's taken the train from Hildenbrook train station at 5:38 p.m. He has got off that train at Tunbridge, changed train, and then got off a different train at 6 p.m. at Marden train station. And our last sighting of him is at 6:14 p.m. on the same road as the first sighting, only half a mile away.
How would you describe the suspect?
He is an exceptionally large build male. He's got very muscular arms. He was wearing distinctive red-soled trainers, and he's got thin layered clothing that he's layered up with a beige cap, and he was wearing a face mask on the train. He sought to disguise his identity by changing and putting a high-vis jacket on and taking it off.
OK. It was a very hot day. It's worth reminding viewers that he may well have stood out just because of what he was clothing at the time. He also had a bag on him, didn't he, at the time? And you've got a similar one here in the studio. We can see that. How would you describe the bag?
So we think it's from a make called Timbuktu. It's a messenger-style bag. Also with the bag was a bicycle. He was using a road bike. That road bike is from the late 90s, early 2000s. It was set up for someone who knew about cycling, and in particular, quite distinctive were some aero bars that are at the front going off the handlebars.
So that was a site with the type of bars where the rider would be leant over on the bars and their hands would be in a forward position on top. You often see them with the higher-end road bikes, but it could suggest that the person knows a thing or two about cycling.
It could do, and it is a hypothesis because he is moving quite quickly. We know that from where we've viewed the CCTV footage.
We've also got the audio clip that we can actually hear the suspect's voice. Now, we're going to play that now.
Open it. Open the garage. Open the garage.
That's the key at the garage.
Open the garage.
I'm opening it.
Open it.
I'm opening it.
I mean, it is chilling hearing those words, but it is so important, and you wanted to play this today because someone might recognise that voice or clues as to where that voice is from. You've actually had a linguistic expert analyse that footage. What have they concluded?
Yeah, so what the linguistic expert tells us is that his voice is likely from the more prosperous areas of the southern counties. We have a QR code where people can listen to that voice. I think they can access it from your website. I would ask the public to listen to it, see if they recognise those mannerisms.
Yeah, because it's really important we identify who this is. How can our viewers help you today?
What I need is for someone to tell me this man's name. I recognise that they might be too frightened, so they can give that anonymously through Crime Stoppers, who are offering a £10,000 reward for any information that leads to his conviction.
Thank you, Maxine. You can contact Crime Stoppers on the dedicated telephone number below or contact us if you have any information.
And with PC Natalie Booler from South Yorkshire Police now for our next appeal. Good to have you with us in the studio, Natalie. Tell us more about this case.
Good morning. This is a single vehicle fatal collision that occurred in October last year. A vehicle was driving at speed through Gleadless Town End when it struck a pedestrian in the carriageway. Sadly, victim, 42-year-old Damien Votalevic, died at the scene having sustained catastrophic injuries.
And Natalie, what's really shocking about this is the fact that the driver didn't even stop.
No, he didn't. He left Damien in the road.
Well, let's talk through the details of exactly where and when this happened. We've got a map that we can take a look at. Just talk us through this.
OK, so the collision occurred on the 24th of October at 8:27 p.m. last year. And it happened on Ridgeway Road. This is a multi-carriageway road and it's governed by a 40-mile-an-hour speed limit, and the area is known locally as Gleadless Town End. We know that prior to the collision, a number of vehicles passed through that junction, and we also know that the offending vehicle was travelling at speed through this junction when he struck the pedestrian.
As you say, after the collision, the driver continued. We've got another map to actually illustrate where he went. Just talk us through what we're seeing here.
OK, so following the collision, the vehicle has continued from Gleadless Town End along Ridgeway Road, turning right onto Hollins End Road. And it's continued its journey towards Intake, along Hollybank Road, and then it's made its way up Normanton Hill and heading towards Richmond. And then as it's travelled along Richmond Road, it's turned left onto Richmond Hall Road, where we know it's travelled through the estate, and the last sighting of the vehicle is on Spinkhill Avenue.
We've actually got some CCTV footage, haven't we, of the driver in question going incredibly fast, Natalie.
Yeah, so as you can see from the footage, the vehicle is travelling significantly faster than other vehicles that are on the carriageway. And following the collision, the damage that was sustained by that vehicle would have been easy to spot.
Well, you urgently want to locate the vehicle. Tell us a bit more about it.
Okay. So inquiries have led us to believe that this vehicle is either being stored or hidden following the collision. We know that it's a black Volkswagen Golf, a 2016 model, bearing registration Alpha Juliet 16 Foxtrot Lima Echo. A distinctive feature on this vehicle is that the rear driver's side alloy wheel is very different to that of the others on the vehicle. We have a witness that describes this vehicle accelerating through 3 red traffic lights prior to the collision. And we know that following the collision, the vehicle sustained quite a lot of damage, and this includes a creased bonnet, and most noticeably, the front passenger headlight became detached from the vehicle. And although it was detached, it was still illuminated and swinging by its cable. We can't be certain from CCTV, but we also believe that the windscreen sustained damage as well.
And crucially, you want to actually find this man we can take a look at linked to the vehicle before the collision.
That's correct. This is 35-year-old Keelan Winfrey. And we believe that he was the sole occupant of the vehicle at the time of the collision. He's a well-built mixed-race male, and he's got a distinctive beard and a shaven head. He is wanted in connection with this inquiry, and we believe that he's fled the country.
How can the viewers help today, Natalie?
Well, so far we've interviewed 2 people on suspicion of assisting an offender, and they currently remain on bail for those offences. It's paramount to this investigation that we locate this vehicle, as it could hold key evidence. We're appealing to witnesses that know or have any information as to the whereabouts of that vehicle. Even just knowing that that vehicle has been destroyed would be of great help. We're also appealing to witnesses or anyone who knows any information, not just about the vehicle, but also about Keelan Winfrey too. And finally, we appeal to Keelan, come forward and speak to us.
Natalie, thank you so much. If you do recognise this car, if you have any information at all on this case, then please do pick up the phone. Our details are on your screen.
Next, a wild investigation into a man who thought he'd found an infinite money loop after a glitch allowed him to nick, get this, £25 million.
This was a multi-million-pound fraud investigation. 4 years piecing together tens of thousands of pieces of evidence, recovering assets from all over the world. It was definitely the most complex investigation of my career.
On the 5th of December 2017, a man named James Parker reported a theft of Bitcoin to Lancashire Police.
He'd left his laptop unattended in a hotel bar. Someone had logged onto his laptop and withdrawn a load of Bitcoin whilst his back was turned. And we could never properly identify a suspect in that case. So that investigation was closed.
9 months later, police received a second report of a seemingly unrelated case of Bitcoin theft.
Kelly Caton had reported that a named person had stolen her phone and taken 15 Bitcoin. At the time, that was £75,000.
The suspect was interviewed and gave the police 2 key pieces of information.
She directed us towards a man who lived in a hotel in Fleetwood. That person is James Parker.
She told them the source of the stolen Bitcoin was an Australian crypto exchange, a platform where you can buy, sell and trade cryptocurrency. Police contacted them and were astounded by what they heard.
They told us they'd lost 40 million Australian dollars to the fraud. At the time, that was worth about £22 million in sterling. The cybercrime team had just interviewed the suspect, so they come to see me with this frankly unbelievable story of millions of pounds and unknown suspects.
It turned out the crypto exchange company unknowingly had a glitch on their website. Users were able to exploit this fault and receive bitcoins for free.
It was basically like you advertise something for sale for £100. You click buy, you get £100, but you keep your product. So it's £100 out of thin air each time they used the glitch. There was 5 customer accounts that used this glitch, 4 of which had been opened with very basic details, but one of the accounts had been set up with the name and address and a phone number. That account belonged to James Parker.
And so detectives launched an investigation into James Parker.
He lived quite a modest life. He didn't travel very much, he didn't have a car, he hadn't worked for many, many years. His bank balance never went over a couple of £100. Suddenly his standard of living completely changed. Tens of thousands of pounds is moving around his accounts on a daily basis. I ring James Parker's bank, and what I learned was staggering. Millions of pounds floating around. This is clearly going to be a huge investigation.
Parker seemed to have access to an endless supply of money, splashing the cash anywhere he could, leaving big tips and taking lavish holidays.
Parker would buy cars for people, one of them just a random person in the pub. Parker bought 10 Amazon gift cards worth £5,000 each, so he gave them out, including one to a homeless person. He bought diamond jewellery for friends, he gave loans to people whose names he couldn't remember. He was literally giving money away.
With such huge sums of money passing through his account, the bank had become suspicious and frozen his accounts. And so Parker found an independent financial advisor to help legitimise his wealth, Stephen Boys.
As someone who's regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority, Stephen should have been asking questions. Where did this money come from? Is this legitimate? It would appear that the money on offer to Stephen personally was so great that he was happy to represent his client in any way that was required. He then starts putting pressure on the banks to free up James's accounts.
He successfully had the accounts unlocked. But lured by the prospect of making huge sums of money himself, Boys started using new ways to launder the money.
They start going on holiday to Dubai. They start buying villas. They start buying gold, jewellery, and flying it back to the UK in their suitcase. But the more money they have, the more problems they begin to suffer. Stephen Boys finds himself in Dubai with £1 million in a suitcase, which is a very difficult situation to be in. You can't go to the airport, you'll get stopped. You can't go to the nearest bank and deposit it because they will start asking questions. So what do? He finds his local friendly Russians and buys a villa off them in the back office of an estate agent's. He then has the audacity to whinge that it took the Russians all day to count all those banknotes one by one.
Parker was paying Stephen Boys an extortionate amount of money for his services.
James had paid Stephen £90,000 to clear his mortgage. He'd bought his mother a car. He'd bought his wife diamond jewellery. It was all criminal.
Police were on to Parker and Boys, but they knew there were others involved, and so they turned their attention to identifying the other crypto crooks.
And we'll find out what happened to Parker Boys and the rest of the crypto crooks a little later on in the programme. First, though, last year, motorcycle riders made up 20% of road fatalities, which is an extraordinary figure when they account for less than 1% of road traffic.
And we're now with Mary Lomas, who's a solicitor who advocates for motorcyclists who have suffered life-changing injuries, and Carol Close and Sergeant Adam van der Sand from Staffordshire Police to talk about how riders can stay safe on the roads. Good morning to you all. If I could start with you, Carol and Adam, you both work on something that's called Doc Bike.
Yes.
Carol, can you tell us what that is?
Yeah, DocBike was founded in 2013 by a critical care consultant who works on the air ambulance and a police motorcyclist. They kept meeting and kept bumping into each other at the scenes of fatalities, motorcycle fatalities, and decided to get together and do something about this. And that's where the charity was born, and injury prevention. You know, getting there first and stopping these accidents from happening is the main thing. We started the charity in 2019 in Staffordshire.
It's so important. It's of paramount importance, isn't it? And actually your involvement within this, Carol, has sadly come through your own experiences of motorcycle collisions.
Yes, I lost my youngest son, Luke, in the August of 2019 in a motorcycle accident. He was a police officer in Staffordshire. He was riding off duty and sadly we lost him. We really wanted to do something as a family to prevent other families from experiencing the heartache and the trauma that we've gone through and still going through.
So sorry to hear that.
Yeah, sorry, Carol. And Adam, Staffordshire Dog Bikes actually supports another course where riders can learn all these skills, how to keep themselves safer on the road, should the worst happen.
Yeah, so one of a number of courses we sort of support and help is Biker Down. So there's three elements to that really. The first one around scene management. So if you do come across something, what to do, how to keep yourself safe. Try and resist the urge to perhaps rush in and become another casualty yourself. Often the best thing you can do is warn other road users and contact the emergency services. The next one around casualty care, so what you can do if you do need to help a motorcyclist who's come off the motorbike. The course focuses on like specific injury around that, so things like removing the helmet, CPR, dealing with traumatic bleeding and things such as that. And the final one we call the science of being seen, so that's a lot around how you can position yourself safely on the roads and differently to be seen, as you're obviously a lot smaller than most other road users, and also things around wearing conspicuous clothing, reflective clothing that stands out from your surroundings as well to help all with the prevention of being involved in an accident.
Absolutely. And Mary, within your profession as a solicitor, you see the effects of bike accidents, you know, day after day, but there are some innovations that can help when it comes to safety. Tell us about data carriers.
Yes, so we supply medical data carriers to motorcyclists. We've supplied around 10 to 15,000 over the past few years. It's a really simple piece of equipment. It's attached to the side of the helmet. Motorcyclists can put all their information on the piece of paper that's slotted inside, any medications that they're on, any allergies that they have. They can put that on there, so if they come off and they're unconscious at the scene of an accident, the first responders have that information to hand straight away to give them life-saving treatment. So it's a really important piece of kit to go alongside the other kit that you're wearing to keep yourself safe.
Yeah, really important. So simple as well. And wearing the right kit, I know, is a really important thing for you, Mary. It's important in your line of work when you see people that come in to the cases that are not adequately protected. It's important, isn't it? And Adam, just last word from you, wearing the right kit, is that something you would always suggest for riders who go out?
Massively important, particularly like sometimes if you're in hot weather and the temptation is not to wear it. So wearing bits like we've got in here today, stuff that's up to standard, British standards, helmets, proper protective jackets, gloves, trousers and boots is essential to prevent injury or loss of life.
So important, isn't Adam, Carol, Mary, thank you so much for coming in and telling us more. You're doing really important work.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And for more information on biking safely, you can head to docbike.org. Now back to the Bitcoin scammer and the detective hot on his lead.
Whilst the evidence against Parker and Boys was mounting, DS Wainwright was also investigating two other cryptocurrency accounts linked to the Bitcoin theft.
I identified a barman. He worked in the hotel that James Parker had moved into. He befriended James Parker and became his personal assistant. His name was Jordan Robinson. He hadn't stolen quite as much as James Parker, but we're still talking several £1 million worth of Bitcoin. Prior to this criminality, not much money in his bank account at all. Suddenly, tens of thousands of pounds are passing through his bank account. He's having nights at the local casinos, gambling thousands of pounds, which is easy to do when it's not your money.
The final account was linked to a name already known to the police.
I identified a lady in Blackpool who lived in very modest means, but suddenly became very, very affluent. Her name was Kelly Caton. She's the lady who previously reported to us that an acquaintance of hers had stolen 15 Bitcoin from her. Suddenly, I'm looking at a very different picture.
In March 2019, police simultaneously raided the suspects' homes.
I'm in charge of all the different search teams. I look inside Parker's house. And what we found was a man with more money than he knew what to spend on. He bought these 3-foot-tall elephants made with the material like you see on a shiny disco ball. He has a 75-inch television that I think had been dropped on the floor at some point. He'd bought drones, remote control boats. This was a man who had more money that he knew what to do with.
The suspects were all arrested and brought in for questioning.
James Parker tries to refuse to answer. He initially starts saying no comment, but can't help himself and starts talking.
Do you own any cryptocurrencies?
Bitcoin, Litecoin.
Tell me about those.
Oof, no comment.
Stephen Boy is a bit more intelligent. He replies no comment to everything throughout.
No comment.
Whereas Jordan Robinson talked.
At one point, I saw him withdraw £30,000.
And talked.
He said, there's dodgy Russians going about.
And talked. Couldn't shut him up.
When he came back in March, he had a kilo bar of gold.
A wealth of information for me to then react to. And Kelly Caton again tried to reply no comment, but did start to drip feed us bits of information.
I can't remember the exact details of how the glitch was exploited or worked or whatever, but...
Police seized dozens of mobile phones, laptops, computers and SIM cards and started a detailed digital forensic analysis which confirmed the links between the suspects.
Reading the text messages and the emails between them all, it was very clear the relationship between Parker and Boys was particularly soured. Parker realised that the home he lived in wasn't his own. Boys had registered it in his name, and they kicked off massively.
Boys sneakily signing over Parker's house to himself was just the beginning of the fighting between the two of them.
It then escalated when Parker asked for a Rolex watch to be bought for him when Boys went on holiday to Dubai. When Boys returned home, he realised that the watch he'd bought was slightly wrong. Parker kicked off. He smashed it with a hammer and threw it in a skip. When Boys decided to end his relationship with Parker, he pulls out this homemade contract. Parker keeps the bricks and mortar, worth about £500,000, whereas Boys was allowed to keep the contents of the bank balance, well over £1 million. He properly ripped off his client at that stage. There is no honour amongst thieves. They were all clearly trying to rip each other off by this stage.
In total, Parker and his gang had stolen the equivalent of £25 million in Bitcoin.
So during the investigation, Parker's health was failing. He was suffering quite badly with COPD. He told me himself when I last interviewed him, he would die soon. In the weeks immediately before, the Crown Prosecution Service charged James Parker. His health got the better of him. A lifestyle of years smoking and drinking in close confinement must have ruined his lungs. And ultimately, COPD finished him off. I had very mixed feelings when James Parker died. Sad that he's died, frustrated he won't see justice, disappointed for the victim company that wanted to see him imprisoned for what he'd done.
In 2022, the remaining defendants pleaded not guilty to all charges brought against them.
This is now 4 years into the investigation. The big challenge for me, by the time we got to court, is making sure the jury understood the material. This is a complex investigation. The volume of material is massive.
After a 4-week trial, the jury found all the defendants guilty. Stephen Boys was sentenced to 6 years imprisonment for converting criminal property. Kelly Caton was sentenced to 4.5 years for conspiracy to commit fraud, 2 years for acquisition of criminal property, and 2 years for converting criminal property. Jordan Robinson was sentenced to 4.5 years for conspiracy to commit fraud, 2 years for acquisition of criminal property, and 2 years for converting criminal property.
There was a massive sense of relief when the guilty verdict were read out. Not one of the suspects showed any remorse. This is a multi-million-pound fraud investigation. I spent 4 years piecing together thousands of pieces of evidence and recovering money from all over the world. It was easily the most complex investigation of my career.
I mean, what an investigation, but good to see justice served at the end. Now, South Wales Police are one of the UK-wide forces who use facial recognition as part of their policing, and they've just launched a new mobile app which can confirm someone's identity at the touch of a button. I'm joined now by Inspector Ben Guire and Sergeant Chris Lorenzen from South Wales Police. Good to have you with us in the studio. Tell us more, how does it work?
So basically, we've built an app where it uses our facial recognition algorithm that we use in South Wales Police. And where there's a policing purpose, we can capture some basic justification details as to why we're using it, take a picture of an individual, and if they are in our database, it will bring back a match straight away with a high degree of accuracy for the operator then to make a decision as to whether it's correct or not.
OK, so like day-to-day in real time, how is it helping your officers?
So there's the obvious ones, really. It's helping us identify suspects who give us false details or are unwilling to identify themselves and identify them for crimes that they might have committed. But there's also sort of the compassionate angle as well, where people who might be in medical crisis or might have passed away, we're able to identify them more quickly, meaning that their next of kin can be told more quickly rather than finding out through social media and other veins. And obviously we can then identify that person and help them more quickly.
Of course, that makes so much sense. It could make a real difference, couldn't it? Can we have a little run of how it works then? Let's see it in action.
Yeah, of course. So this is the main data capture screen.
Yeah.
And I've pre-populated it there. So we'll use the inspector as our model. And
Lovely
I take
stuff.
a photo of him there, very professional. And then from here you can crop out. So if there was any other people in the background, etc., you can really focus in on the face.
So it was like a busy background.
Yeah, and then hit submit.
And what that's just loading up on the
yeah, so it's sending that
now.
image to our facial recognition server and it's comparing it, and it'll only bring back matches above the set threshold. And from there, then, you can compare the photo you've just taken against the file image that we hold.
I mean, that's in a matter of moments, isn't it? Really useful tool. I mean, facial recognition, it's still somewhat controversial, isn't it? I mean, what would you say to anybody that has questions around it?
Absolutely. So we've had our algorithm tested independently by the National Physical Laboratory. And what we found was that at the settings that we've got now, there is no evidence of bias towards any demographic group, so ethnicity, age or gender. But also what we've then got is a set of sort of scrutiny and oversight systems, starting with the officer supervisor, making sure that the searches are being conducted properly and going right the way up through the organisation to our police and crime commissioners and ultimately to independent regulators such as the ICO and the biometrics and surveillance camera commissioners. OK,
that's good to hear that it's covering all bases, isn't it? And it has had some successes so far.
Absolutely. Obviously, it is only comparing against our own databases. So what we've had within that is a member of public in Gwent who was found unconscious. We weren't able to identify him. As a result of using the app, we were able to find out he had family nearby. It meant that he didn't have to go to the hospital and be looked after all night. We were able to get him to someone who was able to look after him. And it was one of the nights where it was particularly cold, so had he been left out, he probably would have come to quite significant harm. And then we've had a second one, which was quite a recent one, a male acting suspiciously around cars, stopped by officers, refused to provide details. And when they've actually stopped him, he's a wanted burglar.
Amazing. You know, really good to hear that it's working with some real life examples there. Thank you so much for coming in and telling us more. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Raf.
Great tech, but now it's time for Wanted Faces. First, do you know a Bradley Dwyer? Though he uses the nicknames Faz and Farron, GMP want to question him about the large-scale importation and distribution of drugs. He's 39, has links to Salford and Oldham in Greater Manchester and also Dubai. Or what about Sean Green? He failed to appear in court after police in Cumbria charged him with conspiracy to supply drugs. He's 28, known to operate in the North Cumbria area. Or how about Jack Treadwell? He's been recalled to prison for breaching the conditions of his licence. He's 23, 6 foot tall, has a number of tattoos, including the words Nan and Pap on his wrists. Police say he has links to Milton Keynes, Buckinghamshire, Northamptonshire and Bedfordshire. And lastly, have you seen Stephen Mumford? He's also known as Stephen Richard Persaud. Wayne, Percy, Darren, Sean and also Mohammed. He's been recalled to prison for breaching his licence. He's 43 with a range of tattoos, including the words Stephen, Zainab and a heart with the word forever in it. He has links to Oxford, Carlisle and Somerset. If you spot them, please do give us a call. Thank you so much for watching this morning and for all your calls. If you've missed any of the series so far, you can catch it up on iPlayer for up to 30 days after broadcast.
Tomorrow, how the brave actions of a team of officers were put to the ultimate test after an uncontrollable fire tore through a caravan site.
The fireball spanned a good 50 to 100 metres into the air. We need to get out of here now.
Shocking. See you tomorrow at 10:45. Bye for now.